I think I actually started the music a little bit beforehand, so it may not even be recording. It's Pocket Bear. All right, welcome to episode 160 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Powers, coming back from a bit of a week because we just decided to skip last week, because why not? It's our show. We do what the frick we want.
We needed a break. We just needed a break.
I wanted to do the show, but you guys just had to have personal lives.
Listen, I was not in a place to do any recording.
I know,
Saturday.
I'm just being funny about it. All right, so joining us this week, once again, we have the whole crew here. So starting off with Steven.
Ahoy.
Who's wearing a shirt that my daughter would probably try and steal. We've got Chris.
Hello.
Who is trying to up his work with Chase by completely blanking out everything behind him in the void of nothing. Speaking of which, Chase.
G'day.
He had stuff behind him, but then he closed the closet door. And lastly, Rachel.
Hello.
Looking all magical since you just, you came from another place today with how you're dressed and the makeup and stuff. It's great.
Thanks.
Oh man. It's surprising. It's been 2 weeks. We got some amount of news, but we're just going to have some fun and talk. I get to rush through editing this tonight because I get to go on flights and run around snowstorms of New York for the next week. Wish me luck. Last time I was in snow like this, I got stuck miles and miles away from everybody in the middle of nowhere and had to be pulled out by a backhoe 6 hours later. So that was fun.
I remember that.
Yes.
You were sending messages in the group like I don't it was just
I was so worried I was so lucky to have cell service where I was.
Yeah.
I had actually contemplated, if need be, strapping my phone to my drone and just picking a direction, flying in that way with a message preset to go like, please help me. Here's my coordinates. And then fly it out, come back.
Steering wheel.
Yeah, and try different directions until I got signal. But thankfully I had signal. So otherwise that would have been rough. Anyways, on to happier stuff. All right, so let's talk about what we've been doing, not what I have done, which we're all aware of my mistakes. But Steven, why don't you start us off? What you been doing, man?
Well, something we'll cover today, but every day except for last night and today, I was playing MultiVersus and ZZZ. While ZZZ is still going strong, we will report on something that's happening with MultiVersus, which is sad and glad at the same time.
Just saluting it like it's done.
4 in February is underway. 4 in February is something that was started by a small group of people, and some people embrace it, some people don't. It basically says no matter what the length of game it is, pick 4 games in your library that you haven't finished and finish 4 of them. And, share your experiences finally finishing them. It could be a game you are almost there. It could be a game that is short.
Oh crap! I'm inadvertently almost through with that then. Once, like that's hilarious.
I didn't even know about this, but now I feel like I should.
But it's a nice thing that kind of gets you going, because sometimes you'll just pick up a game and you'll be engrossed again. I got my first one beaten, and people can say whatever they want, but yes, I beat Balatro. So finally got through all 8 antes, and then Chris saw me.
It counts.
And then he saw me beat it the second time.
Yep.
Because my cards were way too good. The first time I won on a technicality because I didn't know that no matter how hard the boss is, if you have the Revival Joker card, you automatically win. Because for people who do play, it said that his ability would be to randomly take one of my Jokers away, like basically make them so they're debuffed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I don't like that, because I have really good Jokers right now that give me a good multiplier. So I was like, I can skip the blind and get a reroll on them. I was like, yeah, let's do that. And it's like, okay, you got very large blind. You have to get 300,000 points. And I was like, yeah, that's not happening.
I've gotten the point of 300,000 I could do easy. So,
but I'm getting to the part where like I almost have everything unlocked. So that's been fun trying to find all those. And eventually I'll get back into Neo-Fantasian again.
Yeah, I stopped playing that myself because I just haven't been playing video games like this week or
there are a few stages in that though that you just have to take the screenshot because it looks like Gumby should be walking around.
I keep forgetting. I keep meaning to.
I was
get
like,
that
these things
game.
are so meticulously like sculpted. These worlds.
Mhm.
I was just like, where's Gumby and Pokey?
Which is funny. I keep forgetting about that because I was talking about that on the show, going like, "This is amazing looking. I really want this," and I'm just like, I'm gonna forget about it. I have other things going on. Oh man. All right, Chase. What about you? What you been doing?
I'm still trekking through the zone in Stalker 2. I'm probably about halfway through the story at the moment.
Nice.
And then I just decided to give it a try because it got shadow dropped, and then I really enjoyed it. It was Ninja Gaiden 2 Black. Game's really good. Combat's good. The only I guess thing that I kind of have an issue with that I think hopefully they'll fix maybe in like a patch or something is the movement can be a little bit sluggish sometimes. Like I just think there's a little bit of a lag in there. So hopefully that gets fixed. Otherwise, I'm really enjoying the game.
Nice. All right, Rachel. What about you? What you been doing?
Oh man. Well, I'm not gonna like go into the event that I went to last weekend, but me and my best friend had fun at it, and it was a really good time, and it was very relaxing. So I'm glad that I went. But today, I drove an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes over to Brevard County, and went to the Brevard Renaissance Fair. They are in a new location now. Whereas they used to do it in like a park, which was always really nice. It had tons of trees. The only like weird thing about it was that was that when it had the rainy season, the mud.
That would be terrible.
Oh, the mimics that would eat the boots because the mud was so deep. Oh, I only went.
Like, do you keep specific boots around just for weather like that, where you're just like, no, I'm not even going to ruin these. I'm just going to, here's my mud boots.
I will be honest with you. Most people took their shoes entirely off. If it had, because it was that
Squishy in the
bad.
toes.
It was that bad. But then it started getting cold, and then nobody was happy. So we didn't even stay the whole time last year. But anyway, that's last year. Now they're in a new location. The problem with the location is there's no trees, so it's no shade, and it's very hot. And the funny thing about it is that they had built this castle thing for the entrance where all the Rennie performers could like be on top of the castle and wave everybody in at the entrance ceremony. But when they opened the fair, they did not they had not yet finished the castle, so it still had all the Lowe's stuff on it. You know what I'm talking about?
It's a time travel anachronism.
And so we were like, yes, the Lowe's Castle. But I get there today, and it's mostly like painted white at this point, and it's got some spacking and they're working on finishing
hilarious.
it. But it's supposed to be a permanent structure. So that way they can always use it, and other people, of course, can use the land, but it's going to be more of their permanent home. But anyway, I went up there and I'm like, oh no, Lowe's Castle is gone. And now we have, and I was like, I don't know what it's called. And one of the people that like employees walking by is like, I think we're calling it Castle Blanca, White Castle. And I was just like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
I literally was like, that's funny. That's funny as hell. Cause it's a double pun because of White Castle and Casablanca.
Yeah.
And I just started losing it, and the young couple behind me was like, I don't get it. And I'm just like, I just looked,
go home.
and I looked at the old ladies in front of me and I said, media literacy is dead. And they just started laughing. And then I get inside, and my only criticism is that at every single stage and even some of the musicians and performers called this out too, is they had these
Mhm.
giant telephone pole type poles around each stage. And I was like, what in the hell are these for? And I get over to what's the adult stage, where there's a you go in, and of course they check your ID, and there's a pub back there, as well as another stage that's for the adult only shows. They're
Right.
not like super inappropriate, but it's just definitely not meant for kids.
They're inappropriate enough.
Exactly.
Is there mead?
Yes, there was mead. And so we go back there, and there looks like there's kind of a stage area, but there's these like another stage area that's back there that's separate from the actual stage, and there's these giant telephone pole things, and it has these little hooks in it, and this sailcloth is stretched on top of these poles, and I'm just like, oh, so that's what's supposed to go there to shade these poor performers that are getting heat stroke and sunburn and dying in their Ren Fair clothes as they perform on stage, that should have shade. So I'm like, okay, well, I hope they finish that for the next time they hold the fair for next year, because good God, that would be wonderful. But I saw many people that I knew, like vendors and performers, so that was kind of nice, because I had not looked at like the vendor list or the performer list or anything, and I was so delighted to see so many people that I was familiar with, as well as like a band that I had just gotten introduced to at this Scottish festival that I went to a few weeks ago. They're called a band called Albanoch, and they're a pipe and drum band, but they also have a didgeridoo. And I heard them from all the way like down the road at the fair, in when I was getting mead at a bar, and I literally was like, that sounds like Albanoch. And my friend Josh was like, you didn't know that they were here? And I was like, no. And I like booked it down over there, and it was just a good time. And I've been reading a lot. That's also another thing that I've been doing. Haven't been playing as much games the last couple weeks. I'm currently reading on my Kindle High Voltage, and yes, that is spelled correctly because it's a play on words, by Chris and Jen Sugden. It's a kind of an offshoot side story book based on a podcast that I love, by the name of Victoriosity, which the premise of Victoriosity is so it's in Victorian, like London, but it's an alternate history, and it's like it poses the question is, what if every time Queen Victoria was attempted assassination or was assassinated, they would basically fix her with steampunk machine parts. So it's very, very good and very funny, and I love it. And what's really great about having listened to the podcast for so long, I can hear the character voices in my head as I'm reading the book. So that's kind of delightful, because it's like, oh, it's like an audiobook, but in my brain. So, and then other than that, I've been watching a lot of anime. I finished an Archdemon's Dilemma, How to Love Your Elf Bride, because it was very short. It was 24 episodes. I know it sounds weird, but it was very cute, and I liked it. And
all anime sounds weird sometimes.
And then right now I'm watching Mushoku Tensei, Jobless Reincarnation, Shangri-La Frontier, Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, and Apothecary Diaries. So most two of them are kind of high fantasy. The first one is high fantasy. The second one is not isekai, but it's like there's still real world stuff, but he also is in a virtual like reality game, which is Shangri-La Frontier. And then Sugar Apple Fairy Tale is making sculptures out of sugar, and fairies are involved. And then Apothecary Diaries is in like ancient China, or ancient Japan. And she serves as an apothecary. I don't know.
Nice,
but it's all very good, and I recommend all of them. There's a lot of good stuff on Crunchyroll if you're looking for things to watch. But that's my piece. So onward.
Nice. Chris, what about you? What have you been doing?
Well, there really hasn't been anything new that I've been interested in lately, so I've just been replaying old favorites, going back to Super Mario Wonder, Mega Man Legacy Collection, Power Wash Simulator, because if I play co-op, then the person hosting gets everything finished. So technically, I didn't do a thing. So that was fun. And Metaphor again. So yes, that's what I've been doing.
Is that even a game now? Isn't it just your alarm clock and just your job?
Could
mean
the
like
same be said for you with?
MultiVersus?
I'm about to say, can we say the same thing about you and MultiVersus and ZZZ?
I don't play until 7:30 a.m.
I only did that once. And you did. You did. You played something until 7 in the morning.
Yeah, Neo Fantasian.
All right, see, there you go.
We all have our
Hot
stuff.
kettle.
Nice. All right, so myself, other than me working on the game room, which I've had a big update with that, we've got most of the shelves finished on one of the walls. I've got a couple more layers to it I can add, but even with all of that and the entire wall, it's only fitting the Wii U, my Switch collection, Xbox One, Series X, PS5, some like a very small amount of PS4, some of my N64, some Super Nintendo, and some NES. And I'm still missing so much more. I don't think that wall is going to fit everything. Like physically, it's not going to fit. So I'm going to have to expand out to another wall as well. But it's coming along, which is nice. But that's led to me being able to play more games. So I've been going through, now that a lot of them are at eye level, instead of having to like crunch down and look through shelves and stuff. I've been grabbing titles, like as I said earlier, kind of unaware. I guess I'm involved in the 4 in February now.
I guess I'm involving myself now, too.
Yeah, so I pulled out Untitled Goose Game because I was like, I haven't played this in a while, and realized I wasn't that far from finishing it. So I just went through and finished it, rolled credits, which was just a fantastic game to mess with people. I finished everything on the main list of all the stuff you can do, and then they give you like a little short list afterwards of some extra achievements. I'm going to try and finish those later. I'm not going to deal with the time ones. I just don't, it's not my thing of running, can you do this fast? I'm like, I did it. I'm a goose and I was an asshole. So that's good enough for me.
I'm a goose.
I'm a goose and I'm an asshole. Great game though. You really should play it. It is fantastic on the Switch. I also have been getting back into Super Mario Wonder because it dawned on me the other day when I was going through everything. I never finished it. Like weirdly enough, I don't know what was going on at the time. I got to about the desert area and then it just dropped off. I didn't play it. So I picked it back up and I finished the desert area today and I'm moving on to the mushroom area. I've only played like one level in there, but still a fantastic platformer. I'm really happy to get back in and enjoy it.
There you go.
Yeah. So I'm probably going to play that on my trip as well. And then for TV show wise, movie wise, we did pick up Wicked, but we have not watched it yet. I bought the 4K of it, which is funny. It's a 4K Blu-ray and then a sing along. And I was like, Amanda wants us to watch it first to see if it's something Jennifer can watch.
It is not an Easter egg, but when you get towards the end of the movie, I want you to think of Tears of the Kingdom.
Wait, what
Okay.
movie?
Wicked.
Oh,
I haven't seen it yet.
no.
We bought it, so we have the 4K. Well, we're gonna watch it first, and we'll determine if we think Jen can watch it or not. That's our thing. But
Does Jen like to listen to audiobooks?
she listens to
read?
everything. The kid's
Okay.
mostly blind, so
Yeah. So like if she likes it and discovers that there is a book and asks you for it, no.
oh, she won't do that. She won't follow books in that way. Like she likes listening to music and things like that.
Okay, well I don't know if she listens to audiobooks, so I just wanted to tell you that if she does, tell her no.
We're not doing that. Amanda's aware of that because she's read it. We're gonna watch the movie, determine if we think it's something Jennifer could watch and be okay with. That way we can kind of get her into the sing-along version because that kind of seems up her alley to hear and sing along with songs. She loves that. That was one of her favorite things in like Moana and Frozen and stuff like that as well.
I think I think she'll like the music, but some of the content might be a bit much for her.
Well, that's why we're going to watch it and determine from there. But what Amanda and I have been watching is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, which aired recently on Disney Plus, and I really, really like this. It's an interesting take on it. It's not canon to the MCU, but it is very MCU adjacent in some fun ways.
I like the animation style.
Yes, it is very much based on the original artwork of Steve Ditko, and a lot of them, which translates really well to this. Every episode, when it starts, they have a variation of a classic Spider-Man comic cover redone. They play around with the little ID marks in the top corner that you'd always get in Marvel Comics, where, they'd draw a character in there and it would say the price of it. And as soon as the first episode aired, I looked at it and it's like, I saw how much the comic was going for. I was like, yep, that's 1960s. That's the original Spider-Man. That's how much they went for. There's so many little deep cuts all throughout it. The guy playing Peter Parker, I don't remember his name, but he's the same one that played Spider-Man in the What If series. So he may sound familiar from that.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference in this is, in this universe, Peter doesn't get recruited by Tony Stark. He gets recruited by Norman Osborn.
Oh, okay. Now you've got me intrigued.
But all the other stuff is still happening. There's still the Sokovia Accords. There's still all the other stuff going on in the background. This is kind of what I wish more of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness would have touched into, where you had little touches where he went to other multiverses, but you didn't get to do much in it. This whole story is basically in another version of the MCU, where Peter's doing all this stuff, but Norman's kind of taken the place of Stark in a fun way, and they've already renewed it for 2 more seasons. So
that's great.
They're playing the long game on like when characters show up and things happen. And some of the takes on characters, I love the way they've gone with it. It's been kind of a fun little Easter egg.
You have convinced me already to watch it, because Spidey's my favorite, and I was interested in it initially because of the animation style. I just finished The Dragon Prince, and it's listen, I cried in the last 2 seasons. I cried at least 3 times. So highly recommend.
I like how Marvel is doing the timeline for this, not of like the show itself, but actually releasing it. They're not making you wait every week. The first week, they dropped 2 episodes. This week, they dropped 3 more.
How many episodes are supposed to be in a single season?
There's going to be 10 total. So we're getting 2 the first week. We got 3 this week. We're going to get 3 next week. And then the finale will be those 2 episodes dropped together. So it's like, you've got the time, for it to come back and watch it, but they're giving you little bingeable amounts in a fun way. Like, I like it a lot better.
Like, it's already been renewed for a couple of seasons. Do they have like a timeline of like, have they already made a bunch of stuff in advance? Like, do we know?
I have no idea. I mean, they're Marvel's so secretive about it. It could be early next year, or it could be 2030. We have no idea.
I don't know why I'm attracted to that animation style, but I am. Like, I mean, I grew up watching Code Lyoko, which is similar too, and Dragon Booster, if anyone remembers that little show.
Well, like I said, I like the fact that they went back to the original Ditko style art for everybody. And I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that voices Norman Osborn. He was in Fear the Walking Dead, is one of the first ones I saw him in. But I've always loved hearing his voice when he does a lot of voice lines, and he fits really well as Norman. Because I can just see later if he becomes Green Goblin, or where that goes at some point, he's already got that terrifying voice he could pull out. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, the most I've seen with it, which I thought was neat, was when you watch it too, Rachel, when you see a scene where it's just coming from the perspective of Parker's backpack, that whole sequence is a shot-for-shot remake from the Spider-Man movies.
I saw something about that. I think it was on either Threads or Blue Sky, and I was like, "Oh, this is fascinating." I love it when
I like when they do shot-for-shot remakes of something and it's just changed for the universe it's in. So
that's so neat.
Because it's not really spoiling anything, but like the entire scene of when Peter walks into his apartment and you see May talking to somebody on the couch, which you later find out is Tony Stark. As he's going through doing everything, this time it's now Norman Osborn. But I love how they have little Easter eggs like that. And they actually have little Easter eggs to other movies and other events too, which is cool. So yeah, it's one of those that's really fun to watch. And then I've been going to like New Rock Stars and stuff like that on YouTube and watching their breakdowns of it, because they've been finding little fun references and taking time out of it. It's like a whole little fun thing. So yeah, I really would love for you to watch it and find out or hear your part of it, Rachel. So I'm all for it. So all right. So let's jump over then to our group chat because we actually have a couple things this week as well. Didn't really hear you much that time, but yeah, we'll get it in there. All right, so we were going to talk about this last time, but we ended up canceling the show. But hey, we finished Demio for the main story finally. But we're now on to challenges and achievements, which will probably have to wait because I can't play too late tonight. And I don't want to get diving into that. I have flights in the morning or tomorrow. I want to be able to get up and get breakfast. But as a side note, and this was kind of listed in there, Resolution Games in cooperation with Wizards of the Coast has announced Demio Cross Dungeons and Dragons Battle Mart. It's a new strategy game that leverages Demio's action role-playing system for consoles, PC, and XR, or, augmented reality devices. I've never really heard. I don't normally hear about it as XR.
XR.
Yeah, usually it's AR. So whatever. But I love Demio, and it kind of feels like a tabletop version of D&D. So it makes sense that they're actually bringing in some D&D stuff.
Yeah, I hope it's just like mini campaigns, just like Demio had books.
That's what I think it's going to end up being, because that was kind of even the idea behind the books in Demio. It's like you're just getting, new tales and stuff in there. And then the next thing we had, which Rachel's, you and I, we finally got back into playing No Man's Sky, which I had not played in a while, and they just got a big update recently. And Steven, I don't know why you're rolling your eyes there. What's going on, man? You don't like No Man's Sky? What's up?
No Man's Buy.
I've bought it enough that it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think Jeremy basically funded their entire game studio, at least for the next year.
PS4, Xbox One, PC. I have it on Switch. I'm getting the PS5 version, the Series X release.
It's like
rename
me.
that to One Man's Buy.
It's
I'll
like
do it. I don't care.
It's like me with Chrome Studios and Ty the Tasmanian Tiger.
Yeah, there you go.
So.
Which I got a great deal on it's on sale on Woot. I got it for $30. I got the whole deluxe bundle.
Amazing! I'm so glad for you. It doesn't have the third game though, so continue to weep.
What I liked was it was all on cart.
Yes, it is.
Oh, nice.
It is. It is all on cart, and it gives you separate icons for each game.
Nice.
I do like when it does that for games.
Yeah.
And you only get a selection of songs digitally instead of UK got a physical CD of the soundtrack.
Really?
I thought I got a physical soundtrack. No, did I? I don't remember.
I know.
I don't care. I don't care because all of George. I'm gonna butcher his last name, so I'm just gonna say it like that. All of his work is on Spotify. So
there you go.
All of it, literally all of it, bass bumping didgeridoo everything.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was No Man's Sky. It was fun.
Yeah, it was just kind of us exploring around.
Yeah.
When you loaded in, it popped you in on a different planet from mine. I was like, oh, I'm sure you'll join me. And all of a sudden it's like, I look up and your icon appears on this planet I see up in the sky. And I'm like, all right, I got to go get her.
Well, I think because I had never played it on my PS5. I had just upgraded it to, and I'm pretty sure because I went so long without playing it, it just kind of all my progress. So,
it still should have kept your stuff. Maybe it didn't carry over from the PS4
I don't
originally.
think it did. And also, I don't know. But it still remains a game that you can just play for a few hours one day, not pick it up for 6 months, and drop right back in, and it doesn't matter at all.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I used to play Skyrim. I would come back in months later and just spin my character around and go, I'm going to walk this way and just go do something. And that's how I'd play it. No, the weird thing when we were playing, and I've never had this happen before, playing No Man's Sky.
Oh yeah,
it crashed 3 times.
He was really irritated. We couldn't figure out.
Pissed.
He couldn't figure out why it was doing that. No, it wasn't the new update. Like, because mine was fine. Mine wasn't doing anything wrong. The only thing that I could think of is that because I was in a different game mode that he was in normal mode and I was in like easy mode or something. So, but that shouldn't really do anything either. So I don't know. It is a mystery we may never solve.
The closest thing I could find when I looked it up online was there was a bug with some people when it got installed where certain sounds, if they activated, would crash the game because they weren't playing correctly. And it seemed to happen when Rachel, not intentionally, but like when you would bring out the little device and you were trying to like mix up ingredients or do something. That was one of the things they were saying, like sometimes that would happen. So even if I wasn't there and you were doing it, it would try and process that the sound would go through and my game would lock up. And I don't know if that's actually the case.
I mean,
that's what we read. And I was like, that's kind of funny if that is it.
That is a very similar instance of what was happening. But at the time it was crashing, I was not using that item.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know if it was that specifically or if it was because certain things got triggered because I have no idea.
It sounds like Power Wash Simulator when Christian and I had the bug. When we looked it up, they're like, don't stare into the sun. If you don't stare into the sun, you won't crash. I'm like, that's oddly specific.
I went in and there was like a network option that you could turn off. I don't remember exactly which one it was, but once I did that, we didn't have any more problems. We only played for a little bit longer and it didn't crash again, but it's like those first 3 times, Rachel I was like, what the? And the game itself locked up, but Xbox still worked. She could still hear me. We were talking on Discord on there. But I couldn't even go back to the home screen. And like it would finally kick out after a while. And I was like, this is so weird.
Oh yeah, no, I was just chilling. And then he's like, I'll be back. And I'm like, I know, I'm just vibing here on this planet, trying to figure out and what I'm doing. And yeah, so
I eventually got her to come back to the base planet that I have, which I named a whole planet Zenspath because shocking. I know. And then the main base I had, and she's looking around, and some of the weirdest creatures around there. It's like one of them is just literally a bubble. It's a living bubble. There's a bunch of them just running around. She's like, what the shit?
Oh yeah. I kept finding weird crap on that planet. And one of these days when we're playing, Jeremy, you'll have to take me to a planet with sandworms and just let me watch.
I have a couple of those I found, yes.
Good,
they are terrifyingly large.
That's okay. They're my favorite because they're sandworms.
I'm just glad they're finally in there.
Yeah, me too. I remember the announcement video, and literally everybody on my because it was announced, God, when I was still playing Destiny actively with Fireteam Catastrophe, and literally the entire fire team sent me the video because I was at work when the announcement went off, and I just wasn't watching it, couldn't watch it. And they sent it to me and they're like, Rachel, they're sandworms. And I was like, my God.
There you go. I do love the fact that, because I hadn't really played multiplayer that much on here in a while, but like they have No Man's Sky friend codes. And I was like, friend codes are never going to die. Nintendo started that shit. And it's just like, everyone's got friend codes now. So I think everything can crossplay except the Switch. I don't know. I don't even know if that one ever got the update to have true multiplayer or not. I never figured that out. I need to go back and look and see. I want to see what they do with Switch 2, but we should all get on there at some point just to mess around and see what's up. All right, let's jump into our news. So E3 is dead. Long live E3. The ESA organizers of the now dead E3 events have announced its replacement called iicon. Which is IICON, because why not? Takes place April 27th, 2026 in LA. So you got a little while to wait. It's not going to be this year. It's next year. Though that would have been great if they just surprise dropped it this year for April, because then
Nintendo need a shadow drop convention. Why
not? You know, friggin' in April, Nintendo could have had a huge blowout of Switch 2 stuff, you know? A number of high-profile companies from the game industry have already confirmed their attendance. So we've got Amazon Games, Disney, Electronic Arts, Epic Studios, Epic Games, Microsoft, Nintendo of America, surprisingly, because Nintendo is very iffy on some of the stuff they actually go to, E3 being one of the few. Sony Interactive Entertainment, Square Enix, Take-Two Interactive, Ubisoft, and Warner Brothers Games. We'll have to wait and find out if Ubisoft is still a company by next year. But hey, they're going to at least try and go.
So I think your next point is the reason why Nintendo's going. But go on.
What's also interesting, is that they're also welcoming movie studios. So they don't mind if movie studios are going to be there too. So apparently it is a little bit more media than we thought, so they might include some movies.
Honestly, I would be fine with that if they would start bringing back like good movie tie-ins. Like anybody else miss the movie tie-ins could be crappy, but sometimes they were just fun games to tie into. Now we just get like mobile phone games. Like we don't get good games for movies anymore.
They try. I mean, I think it's it's not a dead market, but I think it was a product of its time. If that makes sense.
Ironically, what was it?
LJN.
Yeah, like The Mummy Demastered is the last like really good tie-in for a movie that I remember.
I don't know. I really liked the series of Unfortunate Event games on PS2. I don't know.
I'm talking about recent because that was this generation. Because the Mummy Demastered was a Switch title.
I didn't even know.
It was tied to the failed Dark Universe.
No comment.
Yeah, I know. The event will also allow audience members on an invite-only basis. So we'll have to figure out how this is going to go and if I can somehow squirrel tickets for us being a media podcast. I will whore out for that. I'll try. Just see what we can do.
So like I said, I think the reason that it is an invite-only basis, I think that is probably the biggest reason why Nintendo of America is going to go is because they are so selective. And I think a lot of I think a bigger reason why E3 ended up going the way it did and leaving the way it did is because the too much of the public was allowed in, if that makes sense. Like it got too big.
I mean, they're all about the swag and like just the spectacle of it, and then you forgot that there was a game behind all that crap.
Exactly,
so
and
there waste all the money on the models.
And there is a time in a convention's life where it gets to be too big that inevitably it becomes its downfall. I think there's some actual comic conventions and stuff that will probably end up going that way because they get too big for their britches, and but
maybe
yeah. So I'm kind of glad. It makes me wonder whether or not once they kind of knew where it was headed, it makes me wonder whether this was their plan all along,
Not sure on that. I wonder if this is going to kind of bring back the initial use of E3, which wasn't so much to be a spectacle for everybody other than like some announcements and news coverage. But the biggest part of it was to get distributors and marketing people and developers to talk with, stores and retail locations to be able to purchase games and where they're, how many they're going to ship and all the business stuff that went on in the background.
And also for developers to talk to each other in person and for industry professionals that are on the hardware side to talk to each other.
Developers have kind of moved away from that. Once again, not just because E3 got kind of big, but they started getting stuff like GDC is still really big. The Game Developer Conference, which has been a huge part of it. Go ahead, Steven.
Two things that will muck everything up. So here's a warning out to everybody wanting to go. Don't fuck this up. One, don't try to walk around the show floor before everything's set up and take skewed, blurry photos of Nintendo games before they're officially announced. Don't do that. And two, don't steal from the events. Stop taking people's computers and source codes. Thank you.
Yeah. That's a big thing. And also, I almost wish that I hope they're very selective on their media. Like it's an invite only, which makes me wonder if you have to apply. Like you can't just request access.
I don't want them to be so discerning that we have no chance. I'm going to try.
I mean, like I said, there's nothing against trying, but I hope that they are very discerning on who they allow access. Like, I hope they don't just allow any content creator on the planet.
Yeah,
because
Yeah,
that
I agree, but also let us in.
The Switch 2 preview event that's going on.
Oh, that is tight. Oh my
almost
god.
Everybody I follow, nobody's getting in. And I think
Yeah.
one person finally got in, and they're just your regular Joe Schmo. So they're not giving exceptions for anybody who's an influencer or anything. They're like, nope, you either get in by the lottery or you don't get in.
IGN had like one person make it. I was like, holy crap. Like, that's weird not to which I wonder if they're still going to have their own thing apart from them. Go ahead, Rachel.
They like Nintendo. I hope that this event is as selective as Nintendo is with their events, because they it's a good way to avoid leaks. It's a good way to avoid to keep perception the way that you want it to be with your games, which sounds a little controlling, but I think it's very important for them because it's kind of it keeps control of the development process. Because I don't know, it's sometimes things get leaked on purpose to gauge opinion.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the Nintendo ones, I think I know they're allowing a lot of time, but I think it can be counterintuitive to be that picky about who they let go, because the whole point of this is to get people to see it and talk about it. That's like making a movie and then not letting anyone go watch it.
So it's the same thing as the museum. It's like a lot of people will get in, but sometimes it's not the people you think, and nobody's getting a free pass.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is nice.
It is nice, and I think it makes for a better event when you're more selective, because then you don't just have everyone and their mom there. So,
but once again, this is supposed to be a way for people to see it and interact with it. It's just kind of weird to limit it that much for that. That's the purpose of it. Like, that's what they did with the Wii and stuff too.
Details. I think
we need more details, but I will say, there are people out there who will say that all press is good press, but I don't think in the game industry that is correct. So,
well, like I said, not so much, the press one way or the other. It's just, if you're having events that you want the public to be able to see this and experience and understand it, and then you limit it so much, it seems kind of counterintuitive, I guess.
We'll talk later.
You see my point on that, though. That's, I understand why they're being kind of picky, but it's also like kind of doesn't make sense. That's all. It's just weird. That's all.
We'll talk about some things a little later.
Yeah.
This will be a continued discussion, I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure this is going to happen for a while.
Mm-hmm.
All right, on to our next little bit. Oh, I clicked on the wrong thing. When I hit it, it just put a 2 over here. Technical gaff. I keep forgetting.
That is.
Yeah, just changed over some stuff. All right, Steven, I'm going to let you talk about this one because it's kind of, I know you're jonesing to discuss it. It's your baby.
Yeah, so MultiVersus Season 5 has begun as of February 4th and has added in a brilliant Aquaman, voiced by Phil Lamar, and a soulless Lola Bunny, who I don't even know voices her.
Ooh.
But it was basically, it looks unfinished, so whatever.
It might have been.
But then they made the announcement both on their site and in the game when you started up. This is the final season before the game will end its service on May 30th. Both Warner Brothers Games and developer Player First Games has announced this. It will continue to be playable offline after May 30th as long as you have downloaded it and installed the latest version. So you can still play like your free-for-all and stuff with your friends, and you'll still have like a Smash-like to play, but you will no longer be able to download it after that date. However, with the recent changes and the updates they did to make it move a little bit faster and some balance patches that finally came through, players are now happy with the changes and now are attempting to put out the hashtag campaign Save Multiverses. What also made people crazy, and I will get the list to you in a second here, but basically they had a list of characters that are done. But what made me mad is when you log in now, they basically made it so you can't buy any more currency. You can only use the current currency you have left. However, the stores are still there that show you all the stuff you can't get. So, Player First, you should be giving some of this stuff away by having us log in every day to get it, but you're not. You're just still putting it out in front of us that if you don't have that currency saved up, there's no way you're getting them right now.
Real quick, I have to say,
if I'm trying to make if I'm trying to make your offline game as feature rich as possible, I'll play it enough to get everything I can.
Mhm.
But if I can't earn anything more to get some of these other costumes that I want, then like, you know, what's to bring somebody to keep back and keep playing over and over again? Right now they're basically doing some elusive costumes that I have to play 5 times a day to unlock by chance. But that's annoying in its own right.
Real quick, I have to say, Chase, you've been holding that salute for so long. I thought your screen froze.
What are you saluting? Are you saluting?
He's just saluting. It's a dying game. It's just going away.
It's
The last post.
Oh.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, go ahead, Stephen.
So there has been some rumors that the main person working at Player First Games
Mhm.
kind of squandered all the funds on all the budget they had,
Oof.
trying to get people like, you know, The Rock as Black Adam, and just trying to get stuff by movie tie-ins, and trying to get the different what do you call it, like the different characters, and just trying to make stuff a lot more predatory and just not very fun for players. And the fact that it took a year off didn't help things, because at one point it still made history as the only fighting game to have the most concurrent players on Steam ever. Nothing else has reached it yet. But you know, they had characters. I don't know why this isn't loading for me, but I will give you the leaked characters. Some of them you're going to be like, "What, really?" Because it would have been really nice to have. The biggest one that that we learned of was like Scooby Doo was going to be in it. We were also supposed to get Freddy Krueger. They were eventually going to put Godzilla and King Kong in it. There was a lot of deep cuts. It seems like Christian, that page doesn't work anymore, because I think everybody got mad at the at that leak, because a lot of those characters were done. But they were basically looking to have, you know, for every superhero there was a villain. They were going to get like Gumball in there. Gumball was done.
God, who would you do as a villain for Gumball?
I would have loved to have Freddy in there, because then you could do Freddy versus Jason fights.
Mm-hmm.
So just having all those done would have been fantastic. And yeah, it was just like a sad thing that had to happen, because then you learn like, okay, but all those characters that are done, why can't you give us those?
Yeah, I mean, well, if it's true what you're talking about, that they squandered the money for that, like they may not be able to pay the license to be able to use those beyond it. Like they may have made the characters, but
get the Wicked Witch of the West in there because they teased her,
Mhm.
and now she won't be in it. And I was like, man, they could have gone so much over everything. And I was like, it's just another service game that died, and it reminds me of the fact that the EA president said Dragon Age probably would have done better if it had live service, if it was a live service game and not a regular RPG.
Yeah, I've heard good things about that Dragon Age, so I don't think that's the case. I'm eventually going to pick it up. It's one of those things. I just haven't had the time recently. But I know Shinoa, I think she was mentioning she really was enjoying it, if I'm correct there, Chase.
Mm-hmm.
She kept saying I should play it. So
yeah, she enjoyed it.
Nice.
So did I, actually. I thought it was a good game.
It looked good. It's just one of those things. I'm just trying to find the time because I've been so busy doing other stuff. I haven't picked it up, but that sucks about MultiVersus. But yeah, like you said, there's been a number of online required, live service games that are just tanking all of a sudden. Sony's had to cancel a bunch of them. There's a couple other larger profile ones that are ending, and there's going to become a reckoning with those, and especially for dealing with stuff that we'll talk about in a little bit. Probably did not help today for that either. All right, so let's move on to our next story. Hey, so do you love old gaming magazines and wish you could reread that old issue? Well, the Videogame History Foundation has got your back. They've just released into early access their archives that have collected and digitized for free all of their stuff over at library.gamehistory.org, where you can check there for more information, sign up, and so forth. I like the idea of where this is going with a lot of the stuff they have. I have one kind of slight controversy I've seen about it that I'm curious how it's going to play out. Do you guys remember recently they had the Kickstarter with EGM with all the stuff they were doing, where people were paying to be able to get access to the EGM library? This turned around and gave that away for free. So some people are not happy about that, going like, if you were aware of it and allowing it, why did you charge us to get access to it? So I think it's kind of a non-issue, but I also can kind of see like,
I think those people are just greedy SOBs because it's the people who buy the Blu-rays and never use the digital codes. It's like,
yeah,
they're just giving you 2 copies of it. You're getting a hard copy of a compendium of all the stuff you love on EGM.
Yeah.
And their search version of all their different areas is going to be a little bit different.
Yes.
Because while these are just scans and then looking for keywords, the other ones you can look up reviews of every game you want to. You can look up every cycle letter of the month. You can look up the fan art. So I was just like, it's not the same thing.
Right.
One of them are archived scans, and the other one is more electronic compendium. So it's just like, it's like a dictionary and an encyclopedia, guys. Just they can coexist.
Yeah, because the Video Game History Foundation, they're going to have, they'll have the magazines. You can look at them, flip through them, stuff like that. The EGM one will have that, like you said, in a more searchable way, but you're also going to get context and stories and stuff from the people that worked on it, and kind of more minutia to it. It's just, I saw that come up as an argument. I was just like, some people get really upset by it. Like, I think it's a great idea. Like, we need to be able to have this information searchable and usable for people, because some people may not consider it research data, but this is important for the history of gaming, I think, for a lot of stuff. Any of you guys have any particular old gaming magazines you might try and go back and see if they have it, like some stuff you used to read?
Oh man,
I think
I know, Rachel, your gears are going.
I'm gonna at least try to search like the first magazine or the earliest one they have from each one I used to have or used to read, and then their latest to see how they changed over years.
Oh, that's a fun way to do it. Yeah. I don't know the full list of which one. I know it's going to be growing as they go along, and I'm wondering, like, are they going to try and do Nintendo Power, or is Nintendo going to kind of squash that because somebody had done a database of that and they went after it before? Or will this be somehow different that they allow? I don't know what the legal side of that's going to be. I'd love to see like some of the older PlayStation magazines. I'd really love to see the Dreamcast magazines. I loved those. And I found all my demo discs the other day. I found the book that has them all. So I'm going to go back through and start digging through those again. What about you, Chase? Do you have any old gaming magazines you'd like to dig through and relive?
Probably the old PSN magazines.
Nice.
That was a big part of my childhood.
How about you, Chris? Do you have any good ones?
Maybe Die Hard Game Fan, just because they were very...
Game Fan was a good one.
Game Fan was good.
They had fun, and they didn't really pay much attention to rules. So that was a very unique magazine.
Didn't they used to have really good art sections, too, for Game Fan?
Yes, a lot of the art sections, many of those artists went on to do official art for various games as well, which is pretty cool.
Sweet.
There's so many. I'm like, I just went on there just to see if anything that like jumped out at me that I used to read. Oh my gosh, they apparently have most of Game Informer, so that's great.
Oh, good. I'm glad somebody preserved it.
Let me see, because they listed it. Let me see what they got. They've got 369 of them, I believe. Well, hold on. They've got most. They've got a good bit of it. It looks like. Issues 1 through 368 is what they have.
Game Informer would be an interesting one for what you were talking about, Stephen, like going to their first issue and then later on, because Game Informer changed a lot over the decades. Like,
yeah,
they were the longest running.
For this, but they used to be cool. Once they got rid of Game and Farser, I was just like, you guys.
Oh yeah, the April issue part.
Yeah, I was like, you guys are a little too serious now.
Oh my gosh, they even have the Final Fantasy Companion Edition from 1999.
They have, I mean, it's not just the magazines. They have a lot of other stuff too, which is great. Like And I think that part of it is more like you can kind of check in to be able to go through a lot of it, where you can get like reports and meeting minutes and, all this stuff for basically, information archaeologists.
I'm trying to see where you actually look at it. Like, I don't know where you look at it. I pulled up the page, but I don't know how to actually look at it.
I think it's still in beta. I think you have to sign up for it to be able to access it, but it's just the fact that it's there. I need to do that as well and see. So,
okay, I think, you have to click on the digital archive, maybe? I don't know. Ooh.
Not sure. I don't know.
I don't know.
It's still a good call to put this on here, Steven.
Yeah, go to their social media pages, because they'll tell you how to navigate the site. Because there's two sites. There's one that just talks about it, and then it says visit here. Some people said they had problems looking at the magazines, and then they said, "Oh, use this link," and they were fine. So I
wanted to contact him because I have it's kind of game related, but kind of a weird little thing. I still have all the documents and everything, the emails back and forth, the apology letter from Nintendo and Cartoon Network and everything about that Volkswagen Beetle that I won, the Pikachu Beetle. And I'm kind of wondering, like, would that be something they'd be interested in adding? Because they have all this other minutia. Like, would that be something they'd want? If nothing else, to get them scans of it or something. I don't know. It'd be kind of fun to just have that in there. my little piece inside of it, though. We'll see. All right, let's move on to our next little bit of news here. All right, so the thing we've been hinting at all night long has been a fun time with PlayStation. So the PlayStation Network has now been down and experiencing service issues for almost 24 hours since Friday evening. It is now back up for most people. Still issues here and there, but in general, it's back up. We've had no official word from Sony on the cause. However, Microsoft recently blocked a, quote, staggering DDoS attack on the Azure Xbox infrastructure over the Christmas holidays. So this could be something similar. I've watched some content from a couple of game developers and other people who kind of work with a lot of this stuff, who also agree it kind of points towards Sony may have had a DDoS attack again. So this also came up to be an issue, kind of show a lot of the problems with the digital media right now. Because if your PlayStation was not set correctly, all of your digital licenses did not work. So your games would not play. Games that depended on an online connection, as Stephen is aware, for like MultiVersus and things like that, were basically non-functional. You said something was going on with ZZZ, like you still had access to part of it, I think.
So PlayStation browser still worked, so you could still, because that's how you could check your PlayStation Network status on your system.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just the PlayStation Network that was down, but not internet functionality. So those things like ZZZ had a little announcement thing in the lower right, and if you clicked on it, it says there's a PSN issue. We'll let you know when it's back up. Please follow our things or stuff like that, and we'll tell you when it's working again.
Yep.
Because there's some people who are extremely butthurt that they missed out on their daily gotchas, and I was like, just get over yourself.
I could see it if it was something that like kept track of like a run, but if it's just a daily thing, I don't know, that's different. This also kind of proved that the PlayStation Portal is useless without that network connection, because it's just a screen with a half split controller that can turn on and do nothing. Because without the streaming capability, you weren't able to do anything with it. I think even locally, like you couldn't even connect to your system and stream it because it still had to be connected online, which is kind of weird. And then lastly, if you had bought a PlayStation 5 Slim or PlayStation 5 Pro, you were not able to sync up and use the disk drive. So even having the physical media for the games would not allow you to play them because the disk drive could not be verified.
That is whack.
Yeah, this is part of why I never bothered getting a Slim, and I kept my launch PS5 because that does not have that problem.
Yep.
So
it's on some aspects, it's just they're not learning from past mistakes. Because I remember how many people complained about the Xbox One because the Xbox One would not play movies until you downloaded the app. So you had to download the app for Blu-rays and you had to download the app for audio CDs. Which I was just like, what? So, yeah, they're not learning from their past mistakes.
Yeah, I mean I think that's still the case on PlayStation as well. Like you have to install the rights for those to be able to watch movies, or you can't even listen to audio CDs. That
Those
option's
like
gone.
automatically just added it, but like Xbox, you had to go to the App Store and download that. Otherwise, you just didn't have the functionality.
Yeah, 'cause I know Sony was their excuse that they talked about for why the disk drive had to be checked afterwards was because of a movie rights thing. It had to be done because of that. I call BS. They just wanted to be able to have it controlled and have you have to sign on, but who knows? But apparently, if you needed something to do while you waited, Krispy Kreme had said they are giving a free donut to gamers today with PlayStation Network being down. I was not aware of this. I kind of thought it was funny when I saw the note. Did anyone try and go get a donut?
Mine's too far away now.
I drove by ours today, but I had no idea about it, so I didn't go.
Yeah, they put it on their social media. They're like, "Are you sad about PSN being down? Come get a donut."
I would have done it too, like because there's was it Gulf Coast Hospital over on 23rd Street? It's like there's Krispy Kreme right in front of it. I could have gone there.
You could have, yeah.
Because we were not too far from there. We went to
a hospital.
Yeah, we went to Chili's for lunch. Yeah, it's walking distance from the hospital. So
I'm in diabetic shock. Go next door.
I remember when Amanda was there giving birth, and she wanted me to, so I could at least get out for a few minutes. I could walk over there and get something and walk back. It's been there a long time.
I thought you gave birth in a Krispy Kreme. I was like,
no. Oh. That would be weird. So, do we think Sony is going to eventually come out and say what happened? Like they had to before. Because
unless they get a lawsuit, which you've already agreed to the terms and conditions that you can't sue them, they won't say anything.
Yeah, because that was the last major outage they had. Like they've had other outages, but the last major one was the 2011 one, which was the DDoS attack that led to information being stolen and everything as well. So I would kind of hope Sony would learn their lesson and not sit on it for so long, because that was part of the problem. It was like, hey, this happened. We just didn't say anything. Sorry, here we'll protect your social security number for a little bit, but that's it. And here's a couple free games. I kind of hope Sony would learn from that and say something. You don't have to admit exactly what the issue is, but at least say what's up.
It depends on the issue itself and how it
Yeah,
happened.
I agree. So, yeah, weird one. All right, well, let's move on to some other PlayStation news then. So, possibly, could PlayStation be announcing a state of play next week? Some users are guessing that could be true. Sony has issued DMCA takedowns for the Bloodborne 60 FPS patch mod, as well as the Bloodborne PSX demake mod, which kind of makes people wonder if we should expect an announcement for Bloodborne's 10th anniversary. Because why else would they wait for years to take down these mods and other projects recently? Steven, I know you had found this story and put this up here, because thank you again for the fact you did the notes this week. What else about this kind of drew you to it? Like what else was going on with it?
Well, because the big thing was that this was something that was not easily done, especially with the FPS patch.
Mm-hmm.
Like the things that you had to jailbreak your PS4 or modify even your PS5 in order to be able to play this, and the PlayStation demake wasn't even like completed. It was just like a cool proof of concept that he eventually used to make Bloodborne Kart, and that immediately got him in trouble. So he changed it to Nightmare Kart to avoid that. But people are just saying some of the dates lining up were kind of odd, saying, okay, so if the anniversary is coming up, but then you're saying after some of these were 4 to 6 years old or older, and then finally they're like, oh, we're taking these down now. They weren't getting any news. They weren't coming up in the news as something fantastical or anything like that. It wasn't getting a lot of airtime.
They had their time in the sun already.
It basically looked like Sony hired somebody to be like, can you look for anything that might infringe on our IPs and take it down Nintendo style. So yeah, they got somebody to do that. At least Nintendo waits till you're done with the game and then they shut it down.
Yep.
So it's just like, you hear Sony, Square, Capcom taking down things before, but for them to just do it years later, with even Max and all the money he spent to redo Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite to turn it into Infinite and Beyond, which is people were enjoying it and you had to buy the game from Steam. So Capcom got like a surge of 125% sale increase. There's a right way and wrong way of doing it. And this was getting more people to buy Bloodborne because you couldn't like hack the ROM or anything. You had to have an actual copy of Bloodborne. And then it used the utility that, if you look into it, it's still out there. You can still get it, but the utility is so convoluted and complicated that you better know how to be a programmer or know how to code to get it to work properly.
You're basically just saying this PlayStation 5 is only going to exist for playing Bloodborne in this mode. Like, you're not getting updates anymore. You're not playing other games. Like, it's
like,
just
it doesn't ruin it doesn't ruin your PS5 per se, I don't think.
It doesn't ruin it, but you have to keep it offline. You can't get updates. Like, it's basically has to be an offline lockdown setup.
Because like for the PS4, you definitely had to have a specific, like a different PS4, a certain model. You had to jailbreak it, so there was a lot more involved in it. But some people really love Bloodborne. But it's weird that you wait, almost a decade, and you're like, yeah, take it down.
I mean, Sega's done stuff like that too. Like, it's hopeful that Bloodborne would finally come out with an update, because I still find it weird. Like, they did not do any updates for it whatsoever for PS5, as popular as that game was. But I do hope they do like a remake or updated port or something. But sadly, it could just be that they finally got around to it and it came up. So I'm hoping that's not the case. But you were talking about Nintendo doing stuff, and this is kind of a side thing I caught. People are getting mad at Nintendo because they did a DMCA takedown on a fan movie, a live action Zelda movie that someone was doing. And they're like, it's not fair. Nintendo's taking that down. It's like, guys, they announced they're doing a Zelda movie. What the hell do you expect them to do?
Yeah, they don't want you to Google Zelda movie and not get the actual Zelda movie and instead get the fan film. It goes along the same lines as the supposed conspiracy theory that Disney created the movie Frozen so people would stop getting Google results of Walt Disney's frozen head. And instead it's the movie Frozen because it's way too big.
What was the other more recent one, Nintendo related? It's like they made Nintendo Music with that generic ass name so that when you search for Nintendo Music, you only found their app, not just music that people had for streaming. I was like, I hate the fact I could actually see that being the case. But hey, at least that's been getting new music recently. So
yeah,
got Mario Kart added the other day. Should have been there before, but whatever. All right, let's move on to some still PlayStation, but also Microsoft news.
Interesting.
Yep. So Microsoft is continuing their quest to become one of the largest publishers in the gaming industry with cross-gen title announcements and rumors for Sony and Nintendo. This one threw me for a bit of a loop because it feels dirty to me, but Forza Horizon 5 is coming to PlayStation 5 this spring, thanks to Panic Button, which is one of the best porting houses out there. They brought us Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal for what I would truly refer to as impossible ports onto the Nintendo Switch. Like, they're so good at what they do. I highly recommend. There was a recent interview between some of the guys at Panic Button and John Linneman from Digital Foundry. Really entertaining to watch that because they break down how they did those ports and what they had to change. Like, it was really fun to listen to. Nice. Go check it out. But they're working with Turn 10 Studios and Playground Games to bring it over. So I'm kind of curious, like, will the physical edition of this have all the content included? Like, will it actually be another game that's going to be the definitive version on something other than the Xbox, which is kind of weird to me. Age of Mythology and Age of Empires 2 have been announced for releasing on PS5 as well as Xbox Series X. That one kind of makes sense. Both games will feature content parity across all platforms as well as crossplay support. That one was like, okay, cool. And then Phil Spencer has already stated that they will be supporting Switch 2, but we don't know which rumored titles will.
I am liking what I'm hearing. Still on the PlayStation side, we did hear that maybe for the anniversary of it, that they're going to release Gears of War Trilogy, all of it remastered now for PlayStation 5 at the same time as Xbox, and have it hopefully cross-play so you can play with each other. And I said that would be a good idea because then people will be like, cool, I want to play E-Day, and that's only on Xbox.
I think at this point, I'm not trying to sound annoyed or anything, but I don't trust that they're just going to keep any of their games to Xbox anymore, which kind of makes me, they keep talking about like, we're going to have new hardware. And all I think of is why. At this point, just give it up, become a third-party developer, because and I get so tired of the argument of you could have Game Pass. I don't give a shit about Game Pass. Like that's
if you look it up, it's just, it's funny what the Sean Layden said, because they were like, what do you think about Microsoft doing that? And he's just like, well, Sega did that and it worked great for them. Just look at the Dreamcast. So he did a little dig to Sega when, and a little dig to Xbox when he was talking about that.
And I get the point of some of these games coming over. I know, like Rachel, you were excited to be playing Indiana Jones later this year.
I am so excited.
And it's a great game. But I hate the fact that that's another one that more than likely the physical copy will actually be on the disc for the PS5 one. I skipped it on Xbox because it was just a code, basically. It's like a disc you put in and the game is not on there.
I am so pumped for this game, and
good.
Microsoft in their own way. It's almost like an accessibility thing. They know that not everyone is going to want to get an Xbox or a PC or whatever.
But
so
why do things that prove that? That's the thing.
Money. They're going
by that same argument, and I guarantee I kind of know the response. Why is it not expected in the other direction then? Everyone's Sony could make more money putting their games on the other side, but they're not because, the market's not as big. Well, why is the market not as big? Well, their games are going to PlayStation. Buy a PlayStation. You're feeding that loop. They can't even have
your games run correctly on PC. We don't want those
I
games
think they do that on purpose.
I think
Spider-Man 2 is a mess on PC.
Yes.
It looks like Assassin's Creed.
See, here's the thing. The reason why people aren't expecting it is exactly what Steven said. Is because when they've done it before, it didn't really work the way it should have. So it's one of those weird things. Like
you have Xbox using Panic Button, as you just said as well. That'll be echoed. One of the best porting studios out there,
hands down.
Sony owns Blue Point Games, which are some of the best porting studios and remaster studios out there as well. And they made them work on a God of War live service game. It shows to me that one person knows how to deal with their IPs and the other one has no idea how to deal with their IPs.
So Sony is I love Sony. I will love them until the day I die. However, they are very nearsighted when it comes to things like this. They're not looking at the big picture of what's gonna.
They don't have to though. They're being handed all the content. They can sit there and make all the mistakes they want.
Exactly. They don't have.
So how does that benefit Microsoft? Like I get it, they get money, but
it shows they're better at making games.
That's it. That's it.
But I mean, so if Microsoft keeps talking about they're going to have the most advanced hardware for their next generation console, who here is actually going to consider getting that if you just be like, well, the games are going to go to PlayStation anyways? Like, no matter how good the system is, Rachel, would you actually consider it? Or would you sit there and go, I'm just going to get another PlayStation. It's probably going to go there anyways now.
So here's another avenue. Maybe they just care about gamers more.
So you're saying, I mean, I keep hearing these arguments a bunch.
I believe that.
I don't believe it, but that is an argument that people could make that nobody has seemed to have brought up.
So, I mean, by that thought, that's like saying, well, Nintendo cares about nobody. And it's like, well, they're companies. I get that. But it's still from the PlayStation side, you're benefiting getting these games while nothing else is going the other direction. It's becoming a very one-sided thing. You're talking about Sony being short-sighted. I still think Microsoft is. Like, you're going to get a little bit more money now. But what bridges or what are you burning later on? This is the check is going to come due on this.
I
And
don't
it's
know that the check is going to come due. I think, see, the ones that they are right now, like putting out there, this is probably something that they have, like, is it all their stuff, or is this just studios that they worked with that operated exclusively on
I think it's
Xbox?
going to be important.
all their stuff.
I think as well as all these rumors, yes, Forza is up there. Yes, Age of Mythologies is published by Xbox Game Studios. I think the big question for me is going to be what games actually get announced for Switch 2, because as much as all these games are coming out, they're still not directly Microsoft. They're all their bought publishers and bought developer studios. It's not their it's not an IP they began with. So if on the Switch 2, if we get the rumored Killer Instinct, we get Flight Simulator, we get Halo Master Chief Collection, that's going to show that Microsoft's all in on putting their games.
Well, Forza
Gears of War is a rumor as well, but until we get concrete on some of their biggest blockbusters, because none of these are blockbusters.
No, they're
yet.
not.
I think Forza is. I would argue that that has been their long-standing back and forth between that and Gran Turismo. It's been an Xbox game since the original Xbox. They've worked directly with them only on Xbox.
Yeah, but that was basically a money tree because Gran Turismo's dead, as far as everybody's concerned, especially with what Chase went through, where you get region locked depending on where you buy the game.
That's true.
Yeah. So
it met with so many impossibilities that if people get like a Forza Horizon and they're like, well, at least this is more accessible. Like,
just don't get me wrong, it's an amazing game.
Gran Turismo, then people are going to be like, oh, wait, then I can play with more people too? It's like, if it's crossplay too, then Bob's your uncle.
I think as it stands right now, with what that they are putting out, it's more of a accessibility. It's an accessibility of bringing their games to more people. That's step number 1. Step 2 is more money because their games are now with more people. Number 3, more people is more people to play with, of people that are already playing the game. And also, it's like another way to get people interested in Xbox. It's in a weird way. Like, let me finish.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. It's in a weird way. It's a way to get people maybe interested in purchasing an Xbox. Like, oh man, well, this game is on the PS5, but all the rest are Xbox exclusive. I really like this game. I want to play more of it. I have to buy an Xbox, and then I have a whole back library to do. So,
go ahead. Sorry.
It's still that still circles back to money, but
the problem with that, though, is that's not how the discussion and how people have actually talked to, like, out in the real world have gone through that. They're saying, well, almost every game that's announced for Xbox, and I think, Steven, you've seen this as well, like online immediately, when's it coming to PlayStation? Oh, I'll just get it when it comes to PlayStation. You know, all these different media outlets are just going like, well, when's Starfield going to get ported? When's that going to get ported? People aren't talking about like, this is a reason to have an Xbox. They're just saying, well, we'll just wait for the almost inevitable PlayStation version now. And I'm like,
see, I have almost always I've almost always seen the opposite. As somebody who primarily plays PlayStation games, when something is announced for PlayStation, everything in the comments is, when is it coming to Xbox? Is this going to come to Xbox? Did they announce it for Xbox yet? Or is this it's the same.
Well, a lot of that's been because like during the lawsuits and stuff, when it came out, Sony was paying third party and making these deals to block the games. I've seen people use that as an argument of why you should get a PlayStation, because, well, you're going to get this on Xbox, like Final Fantasy VII. You're going to get these on PlayStation. They won't go to Xbox because they made that deal with Square. And I think that comes up because it's almost like, well, we're going to get it. They're not, you know.
Well, I mean, they do get it eventually, like a year and a half later.
How long has it been since Final Fantasy VII Remastered came out?
There's tons of people out there who are the same way with it for something coming to Steam.
Yeah.
Because they know they can overclock it, or they know they can mod it.
Yeah.
And then it's the same thing that I know some people who refuse to buy a Switch version of a game because they're like, I'll wait until it gets announced for PS4, an 11-year-old console, or announced for PS5 or Xbox because they want to play with a stable frame rate and higher resolution.
It's all the same argument, just differently dressed. That's it. So I think in this case, if Microsoft is selective on what they put out on other consoles, it will be largely beneficial to them.
So
but
let me raise this point. Oh, sorry.
Once they start, as Steven said, once they start putting their bread and butter AAA like titles like Halo onto stuff, that sets a different precedent. But as we've seen, they haven't really said anything or done anything about that yet. So I think in that case, it's a wait and see.
Well, the point I was going to make to that, because I don't mind them bringing games to other systems. There's ones that make sense, like freaking Sea of Thieves, perfectly made sense. Like their multiplayer stuff like that, 100%. I get why they're doing that. You want the largest market for it. The problem comes down to not wait and see what it is. It's just they're not being clear whatsoever, or they're going back on what they actually do say. Because they were quoted, Indiana Jones is only on Xbox, it's not coming to PlayStation. And then like a month later, oh yeah, it's going to come out for PlayStation. It's like, everyone's like, what? Microsoft, it's not that they need to, be picky about which games they put out. They need to just clarify what their plans are. Because right now, nobody trusts what they say or what they're doing, which is what leads to these articles saying, for every single game coming out or being announced or anything, oh, it's going to come to PlayStation, it'll come here, And I think it's a confusion of their own making. And I think that's more of the annoying thing of it. I'm fine with people playing Forza Horizon 5. It feels weird going to PlayStation, just like it was weird having Sonic on GameCube. You guys remember when that happened? Everyone was like, this just doesn't feel right.
Shinji Mikami said Resident Evil 4 would not go to any other system where he'd cut his head off.
Whoa.
His head's still attached.
Whoa. What was wrong with Sonic on GameCube?
Uh-oh.
Oh, sweet summer child. That was such a weird thing from truly the wars.
I just don't understand. I'm me looking at my copy of Sonic Adventure DX.
You grew up in peacetime. I grew up in wartime. Between the Super Nintendo and the Genesis. That was such a thing.
Console wars is a social construct.
Yes, it is. That's why I'm sitting here going, I don't understand.
It's a marketing tool also. But yeah, it's just because at the time, like with the Dreamcast, when those were coming out, like that was the big, Sonic was always going to be on Sega systems and Mario was always on Nintendo. So seeing Sonic, the figurehead of this whole company, showing up on the competitor system was such a mind-blowing thing for people back then. It just confused the hell out of everybody because it was not normal. So yeah, I remember those reactions. Nowadays, you're just like, it's Sonic, it's going to be everywhere. And everyone's going to adjust. I just thought it was funny.
I'm sorry. I can't wrap my mind around it. I mean, I told you guys my one and only physical experience with the Genesis.
Right.
So for context,
even before then, what? I'm kind of curious. What was the first system, other than that probable weird dentist thing? Like,
I feel like I need to get
Sonic on. Did you have a Dreamcast, or did you play it?
Hold on. I have to give the listeners context for this dentist comment that you just made.
Yeah, it's funny.
There was a weird arcade cabinet. It was probably custom at my orthodontist's office when I was a kid that had a Sega Genesis on a pedestal that was made to look like Green Hill Zone. It was covered in a glass case, had a screen attached, and then 2 controllers coming out. And you played Sonic the Hedgehog on it.
Oh, I didn't catch that it was designed to look like Green Hill Zone. I caught the part earlier. I thought you said it was playing Green Hill Zone.
No,
that's trippy.
No, the pedestal that it was on was literally a maquette thing of Green Hill Zone. So,
wow. Go ahead, Chase.
Oh no, she still has something to say.
Oh
no, go ahead. I'm going to get back to Jeremy's question, but he'll have to re-ask it because I've already forgotten it. Go on, Chase.
Sorry.
Sorry.
He put the little hand thing up. I'm sorry.
I think the problem is that Microsoft, like, going to your thing about trust, I've got a few things to say about a lot of it, but
Go for it.
on.
going for the thing with about trust is I think Microsoft's never had trust for a long time. I think they've been in recovery mode ever since the Xbox One debacle.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's a good
Matrick
point.
made those comments and then just deuced out the door.
And I think I think they've never really recovered from that, which I don't necessarily know if the whole Xbox One thing was necessarily like, I think they went about it the wrong way. I think they were just a little bit like ahead of the party because, you know, back then Microsoft was trying to get everybody to an Xbox ecosystem, and everybody didn't like that. But then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, but it's okay if you're in Apple's ecosystem or if you're in Amazon's or Google's ecosystem now.
Or
So now
ironically, PlayStation's.
yeah, all these companies now want you in an ecosystem, but it was bad when Microsoft did it back then. But I think it's just because they were the first ones to show up to the party.
And they handled it really badly.
Yeah,
honestly.
They
absolutely worded it so badly.
And they opened up themselves to that freaking video from Sony where they're like, how do you share a game with your friends on PlayStation?
Well, when Matrick made the whole thing of like, oh, if you can't be online or you can't afford this, get a 360, that's your offline system. It's like, they should have just walked his ass out the door right there.
I think that, the X, I mean, the reality of the situation is the Series X isn't doing well, hasn't done well this gen.
Yeah.
And you could go into reasons why. It could be because of the trust issues with the Xbox One, kind of still they're dealing with that, but also, you know, you look at it like there's a lot of developers that are just skipping making games for the Xbox because they don't want to make it for two systems. They don't want to make a downgraded version of a game. So is the Series S really helping them or hurting them? It's, you know, there's the I think those are two big issues. I think the fact that they, you know, because they're not selling consoles, you know, I think the problem is that I don't know that Phil Spencer necessarily wanted to release these games over to PlayStation. I think Microsoft wanted them to release these games over to PlayStation.
I could
Microsoft's
see that
like, why are our sales down? Why aren't you making money? And
how much did you just spend for Activision? Make us money.
And then Phil's probably like, well, we need these games in order to get people to buy Xboxes. Why aren't people buying Xboxes? People aren't buying Xboxes.
Well, I think one of their higher ups referred to their games like it was Microsoft Office. Like they just expected it to be everywhere. And it's like, but yeah, I get you.
And I think that's part of the problem. Like, I'll probably always still get Xbox consoles just because I like how Xbox handles things like audio. I think they do, like, I think their audio has always been better, like how they've handled it than like the PlayStation. Not to say that Sony's like bad or anything like that, like they're bums, but I just like, for instance, playing Titanfall 2 on Xbox compared to PlayStation, it was night and day difference when I was playing it on my sound systems and stuff.
I always told people when they came into my game store, which system should I buy? I just said Xbox is more media based, PlayStation's more gaming based, and you'll see that in comparisons where the PlayStation has better shadows or something like that.
Puddlegate,
but it's just like the amount of stuff you have just work better options wise, like Jay said, on Xbox. So Xbox just has more media options. It plays audio CDs. It's the last bastion.
I will say, like, the one thing I think literally the one thing I could get used to the Xbox controller eventually, but the one thing that has for years prevented me from getting this console is the UI for the menu. I was about to say that's
part of why I want to keep it. I love that UI.
See, I look at
but it's personal taste.
But it's personal taste mainly. It's very subjective, and it just, to me, it feels weird. It looks messy to me in my brain and how my brain works. I don't know what it just does.
Okay, I want to ask all you guys real quick. What for PlayStation? What is your favorite UI they've done? And for me, it's the PS3s.
Mine's also the
love
PS3.
The crossbar.
Mine's also the PS3. So,
Steven, what about you?
PS1, because the opening theme was nice.
That was really nice.
It was nice.
Chase?
Well, I get the PS1 opening theme on PlayStation, or PS5 right now for a little while.
Not for
For
long.
much
Not for
longer.
long.
But they did say it will come back in some way, shape, or form. So.
Microtransactions, yeah.
$10.
Chris,
Fine,
what
I'll
about
buy
you?
it.
But
Oh, go ahead.
so I'm gonna give 2 answers because my usual taste. I can't just give one answer.
Can't be simple.
Listen, I understand. I do the same.
I actually prefer and I actually like the PS5's UI.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I like Microsoft Store way better. If I could have,
I was talking about just PlayStation specific, but yeah.
If I could have the PlayStation 5's UI, but with Microsoft Store UI layout, that would be a match made in heaven.
All right, real quick, Steven, we'll get yours. I still want to get Chris's answer about the PlayStation interface because I'm curious. But
Probably PS2, if only because it got the most use out of me.
there you go.
DVDs, CDs, games. I still consider that the quintessential home machine. If anything, it's more of an entertainment system than a certain other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Steven, go ahead then.
The biggest thing you can judge an UI by is on each system you have right now. Clock yourself and see how long it takes for you to find demos on their stores.
No, Steven does have a point, but to give you guys a story, the last time that my best friend came down for a visit and was here for several days, and I stayed with him at his hotel room, he brought his Xbox with him because he was working for a long period of time down here, and I watched him play Fallout. And he goes, okay, well, I'm going to bed. You can watch whatever you want on Netflix or whatever. And tossed me the controller. And I went, I'm holding literally the controller. I'm using this as an example. And I'm looking at it. And I know I'm figuring it out. And I go, you're going to have to tell me how to get to Netflix. Because I don't know what I'm looking at.
It's so customizable. It could be in different places. Like for me, I have an actual tab that's just media streaming. So I can go right to it. And there they are.
His brain doesn't work like that, so he did not arrange it that way. And
he's a savage.
And I literally, I guess it's just the base options, whatever he's using. I have no idea. And he goes, "Oh, it's just right here."
God only knows where it is.
And I just went, oh, okay, sweetheart, I don't understand this. Thank you, though. I'm gonna watch this show now. And that's literally every time I pick up an Xbox controller and it turns on, I'm like, please someone else control this because I can't do it.
I think it's it's like with like learning a Macintosh when you've used Windows or back and forth. Like it's a different in the interface. Each person that's comfortable with it gets it.
I'm the same way with Android phones. I get really confused for about 5 minutes and then I'm okay.
Android. All right, go ahead, Steven.
Another thing that thankfully Nintendo doesn't do anymore, but or doesn't do really at all, and I will attack PlayStation and Xbox thoroughly for, is I fucking hate your social channels because PlayStation automatically makes you follow every disc or game you download, and you have to go back in and unfollow it.
Oh.
Otherwise, you get updates on every game you've ever played on PlayStation. And you get all these news blurbs or people playing it that you don't care about, and it's clogging your UI feed. And then Xbox goes one further and makes it just as bad by giving you its own bar for a game you played maybe once that because it has a following, it's stuck on there. I don't need to know about my Phantasy Star Online 2 Club when I played that game once when I got my Xbox.
I think I turned that off. I don't remember seeing that for a while.
Still just on there, and then below that is the Power Wash Simulator Club, and I'm like, I don't need to know how many people are playing. I don't need to see people's videos. Like, I don't ever want to see this appear on my system ever again. And if it's learning it, stop learning it, because those are two things I don't need to see.
I'm not sure on PlayStation's side, but I know on Xbox, like if there's anything like that, it's shoved way down the list. Like I have to scroll through all my own stuff I've customized.
Mine is like the second or third bar.
Really?
So like Rachel said, you'll just take the controller and you're like, where do I go to turn this off?
Oh, it's just for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I guess PlayStation just loves me, and even though my console does that, it's not what appears on my main thing because I don't look at the social stuff. All I see when I turn on my PlayStation is literally, here's my games.
But I'm trying to get down to like my download queue or down to who invited me to a fucking party, and the party system don't get me started. That's a mess too. You can have like 44 parties that you still have queued.
I just press the little PlayStation button and then you scroll all the way to the center where the downloads thing is.
Well, right above that is all the social media channels for every game you've ever played ever.
The biggest mistake I think the PS5 made, that PS4 had right, PS3 had right, Xbox still does right. Hold down the damn button and bring up the option to turn the system off and put it to sleep. Don't make me go through a menu anymore. Why do you do that, PS5?
PS5 even makes you switch between games and media. It's like, shut up.
Like I said, it all comes down to personal
We can make
stuff.
a whole extra quarters of how much we hate UIs and how much we love UIs. But I can tell you right now, Xbox and Sony, you have the worst UIs year after year after year, and you keep making stupid mistakes. And while Nintendo is behind the times, not even having themes yet, true, at least they have stuff like archiving your game so the icon stays there so you know what games you still have to play again, and it just makes room. And the ability to just like, locally, find your controllers instead of saying, oh, your controller needs an update, and so does the keyboard attachment, and so does, it's like, shut up.
Well,
this is great.
it's
On our next episode, I'm going to rant for 4 hours.
I am looking at my PlayStation right now, and I'm like, there, little spacey looking thing. You tried your best.
Giant Wi-Fi router.
You have tried your best. You look like a weird Art Deco building, but you're a game system. It doesn't matter what you look like.
Let's just admit it. Their UI will always match the ugliness of their system. So if the system's ugly, so's the UI.
Still to this day, my PS3, the theme that I have is the Sonic Adventure 2 theme with the chows, the angel chow and the devil chow.
Mine goes to the green. I try and just use particular colors I like with them, but.
And you know what else I miss? What you couldn't do this on PS3, but you could do it on PSP. You could change the background to whatever you wanted on.
You could do that
PSP.
for part of PS3.
Not mine. I could never figure it out. But it was very easy to load an image onto your little cart.
Yeah, and the PSP was a little better with that.
And you could have it as a custom background. And I was like, so good.
Well, yeah, I loved it when people put their racy stuff on there and forgot to
go trade it in.
They traded it in and I have to test it. I'm like,
I think if I still turn on my PSP, my background image is still a photo of my favorite band in high school, which was Versailles Philharmonic Quintet. It's just a visual K band. And I used to have a bunch of music on there too. So, but.
All right. So my last thought for this, we'll close this out because this has been a hilarious discussion though. Yeah. I absolutely love this. Microsoft's talking about coming out with new hardware. Let's be honest. I will probably end up getting it anyways. I do like my Xbox ecosystem. I understand that. I think their marketing and the way they talk about stuff, Chase, I agree. They've always kind of been bad about that. And it is probably Microsoft pushing a lot of it. I think I'm looking at it from the lens long-term at like what happened with Sega, with the Dreamcast, which also reminds me, before I finish, Rachel, what I was trying to ask you earlier, what did you play like Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2 on originally? Was it a GameCube or was it a Dreamcast?
It was a GameCube.
That answers a lot right there. So you were the first generation into this brave new world, while the rest of us were dragged, kicking and screaming, going, I still have SegaNet.
So, I knew later in life about the Dreamcast. I even knew kind of before, because one of my best friends growing up, Cassie, she had all these systems. She had the Genesis. She had the Dreamcast, that kind of thing. But we never really played the Genesis. We played the Dreamcast maybe once or twice. But I have literally no memory of playing those consoles with Cassie at all. Because whatever games I guess we played on there, weren't very memorable or very important because we didn't play the Sonic games on that for some strange reason. We played something else. And so I don't really have any like memories that have stayed with those consoles. So that is literally what I told you is my only memory of the Sonic games.
One day when we're older, we're going to run into some kid that goes, "Oh, Forza? Yeah, I love Forza. I played it on my PlayStation." And we're going to be like, "Child, you have no idea." I know. It's kind of funny to me.
Yeah.
DuckTales was my favorite game on the PlayStation Network.
It's a good way to finish that. All right, let's move on to our last news story for the night. All right, so lastly, it seems the Nintendo Switch 2 patents are coming out of the woodwork just in time for release this year. So far, from what we've seen, we've noticed Switch 2 Joy-Cons will detach from the console via a small pin that is pushed in. So other than a little hinge, like a little clip point at the bottom, they are straight up just magnetic, which I'm very curious at how this is going to feel, like solid-wise. But that pin we saw in some of the designs from the leaks, that is correct. You press it in, it pushes it out and detaches it.
That sounds like they have some fairly strong magnets because comparatively, Joy-Cons are very light compared to the screen that they are attached to.
My worry is I get in the habit, I'll be holding my Switch and I can just hold it in one hand and I'll be like talking or doing something and I'll kind of dangle it down. I'm still holding it. I'm afraid I'm going to do that with the Switch 2. Not think about it because I'm so used to the Switch 1 and flip it too hard and it's going to pop off. I'm so scared of that.
I still think the pin will keep it in place.
Yeah, I think that's why the pin exists.
Well, the pin surface mounts. It doesn't go in. It just pushes it to let you angle it out. Like I said, there's got to be something else doing it as well. That's that little fear in the back of my head.
Very, very strong magnets. I'll repeat myself.
Yeah, so I just thought that was kind of funny. Next, a charging dock for the Joy-Cons was shown where they are charged from a mouse-like orientation. We've also seen some configurations for FPS play with the Joy-Cons where the left Joy-Con is used for movement and other functions while the right Joy-Con is used like a mouse to aim and fire. This could be a game changer for console players who have an actual surface to play on, depending on when you're either using a little mini table or using it in tabletop mode.
If you look up the patent, that actually shows somebody like holding the one Joy-Con almost like a nunchuck, so they can move around, and then they're using the other one like a mouse. So I was just like that. It's got a lot of possibilities in terms of.
What's very much that's the same control option for the Legion Go, which is I thought it was kind of funny.
Yeah, but Legion Go melts memory cards.
No, not the Legion Go. That's a different one. That was the Asus ROG Ally that was doing that. Legion Go is just really big. Oddly enough, we've also seen a potential Switch 2 Pro controller that splits in half for mouse use. I don't know how much I believe that one, but that is just weird as hell, and I kind of want it.
I showed the patent pictures on our Discord. It literally just separated.
I get it.
And then you would put it down in your mouse.
It's so obscure. It's almost like do you guys remember the PS3's first controller when it was shown off? It was so weird looking, like a boomerang. And it's like, I kind of want it, but I know it's not going to happen. I feel the same way about this. I want this controller, but it's going to be weird.
Right now, 2K is really excited because of Civilization 7. They're like, if that mouse is exactly what they're saying, we're really excited. Because they said they could easily do a patch to implement mouse functionality. That game's not getting the best reviews right now because if you look up, the UI is really fucking complicated.
Oof. There's no Gandhi. They took Gandhi out of Civilization. Like, what the hell, man?
Civ 6's UI was not the best either, though. So
yeah,
they've been on a roll with that.
But I know you play these more than I do, I think, Chase. Like, I played a couple of them and I do enjoy them, but Gandhi's always been a character in these until now, right? Like, it's just kind of weird.
Yeah, pretty sure he has been.
I only enjoyed Civilization Revolution because of its playstyle.
I love Civ.
Every other Civilization I've hated thoroughly as much as I hate mechs. The end.
God damn.
Oh, man.
By the way, for people listening, he really, really fucking hates mechs.
But
so next time we're going to talk about BattleTech. What was that, Steven?
I said, but I still hate Majora's Mask more.
Oh, fuck you. That. So it's kind of funny. Like this, we was basically shown off during the Nintendo Switch announcement trailer about the mouse usage, but this is the first time we've seen the patents actually explaining a lot of it. I did look through these. They went into really good detail about like how it fits into the system. Like everyone's all worried about how that tab is going to break, and it's like you could do all kinds of stuff at the furthest angle it'll allow you to come out from, and it works fine. So Nintendo thought about that. I'm fairly sure that thing's going to be not as weak a point.
They
as
said they
everyone
tried
thinks
it with
is.
Switch 1, but they kept dropping the console, so they needed a better.
That's not helping my fear. I think it's because I also just recently accidentally dropped my original Switch on my last vacation and broke the left green Joy-Con, which is the one that was only available in America through that stupid Best Buy double set. And I'm having to try and order one from Japan now just to replace it. So I don't want that to happen again. But I don't know. The Switch 2 itself, I'm just waiting to see. April 2nd at like 8 a.m. Eastern or 9 a.m. I think it's 8 a.m. Eastern time, 9 a.m. here or whatever. It's or flip that. They're finally showing it off. I don't know why we have the time for it this early. We've got just under a month to go.
So we can prepare our day and prepare our anuses.
I'm taking the day off. I'm going to try and get a vacation day. So Steven, you and I and whoever else can join us can just watch this and stream it. It'd be funny. I just never got to stream a console unveiling.
Christian's not awake. He's getting an air horn in his ears. So wake up, get downstairs, and we're watching it. Okay.
I'll be away that day.
It's like, sorry.
We're going to spoil everything for you then.
I will paint your room mayo.
Ooh. No.
Don't get too threatening, Steven. I'll send him more garlic chips.
It's not mayo.
He's that excited about the Switch 2. Well, this got terrible. Yeah, so what else can we really see about the Switch 2? Funny enough that the C button was once again not on the patents. So people still don't know what the hell it does. Everything else got called out.
I guess we'll have to wait and
see. Damn it. Go ahead, Steven.
Oh, the perfect time for the
Chase.
thinking.
Sorry.
And we didn't get it. Next time, Gadget.
Next up, Gadget. Next time.
Go ahead, Chase.
The mouse functionality thing I think is it's cool. Again, you have to have a surface to play on, but
which is true for any mouse.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And if more RTSs and stuff are able to come over the Switch, then the Switch is definitely going to have an advantage. That I think.
Chase, here's the funny thing. We see the Switch 2 announcement. They're showing it off. We see Microsoft, and all of a sudden it's like Gears Tactics coming to Switch.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
Halo Wars 2 double set coming to Switch 2.
I don't know.
With mouse support.
They also said that the Switch 2 will also use, this is the rumor, a 9-axis motion sensor versus the 6-axis motion sensor on Switch. So it'll be like the Switch Motion Plus, basically. It'll be better. Which has me fingers crossed for House of the Dead.
Yeah, dear God, it needs better controls. I mean, if it doesn't get better motion controls, that game better get an update to at least let me use mouse controls. So I can at least do that. I won't like it as much, but at least it's playable. God, I wanted that game to be so good, and it was not. Anyways. All right, let's jump over to the speed run. So really quick, I'm going to be nice and not take up all of your time, but I had to nerd out because we had the Fantastic Four trailer, First Steps, that was released recently, and I am so happy about it. I know Steven and you and I disagree on one little fact, which I went back and looked at, and that is in regards to Ben Grimm, the Thing's voice. I get it. For a lot of people for the longest time heard him spoken in live action by Michael Chiklis, who has that deep gravelly voice naturally.
Or every cartoon ever, or every
I went back and looked. It's not deep in all the cartoons. Most of them is not.
But at least it's got an accent. This one is just like, I like chili.
Well, I think we just saw that one point where he's talking, but I don't know. I loved.
If I don't get goosebumps when he says it's clobbering time, then the voice wasn't good enough.
Fair enough. I mean, they'd already cast the guy. It's like, it's kind of weird to then expect the voice to be different. It's like they could have just had a normal stunt guy do it if they're going to change the voice or do whatever. I think he's going to turn out well for it, because in a lot of representations, Ben is supposed to be kind of quieter for some stuff, but still be imposing, because that's the flip side to what he got changed into. But I love the fact that they went with a very Jack Kirby style of his design. A lot of people pointed out he looks like the Alex Ross painting of him, where he's got the big brow.
The eyebrows are better now.
And you can, even in shadow, you can kind of see the outline of the thing's face better. I like the suits.
Smart. It was smart to do the 60s because it got away, or 50s, just to get away from all the vitriol of the modern day stuff. We know they'll eventually get to the modern day. I know this is considered a teaser trailer, and we're supposed to get another trailer either next week or the week after. That's supposed to show us more, because I was like, you didn't show us anything from Reed Richards. Like, you didn't show us his powers at all.
I kind of think they did, not so much in the stretching part, but it was more focusing on the brains. Like, that's why because they brought up his big chalkboard, the big curved one. And I almost expect at some point in this movie, you're going to see him stretch over writing stuff and doing that. And, but I agree. That was kind of weird that they didn't show any of the stretching, but they kind of focused more on the family side of it.
Yeah,
and it's an early trailer. The back of Galactus's head looked really good. And I know that sounds weird, but the actual texture and the way they did the headpiece and stuff, I really liked. There was leaked footage from earlier that showed his face, so I know they're doing that correct to the comic books, where he's even got the little weird rectangle shape over his eye and some other stuff. Like, I should have brought it. I've got like massive Galactus toys around the house from years of collecting stuff. Johnny looked like Johnny. He acted like a, maybe early 20s, just asshole the way he acts, which is great. Sue, I thought, turned out really well. I still think if you go back and watch the trailer, because a lot of people theorize she is either pregnant with, or at some point in this movie, they'll have Franklin Richards. And go back and watch this. And I even talked to Amanda about this, because I noticed this when she was pregnant over the years. When she's walking out of the elevator, the way she's walking feels almost... Well, not even so much a glow. She looks like she's shifting her weight, like she has a weight in front of her, but they CGI or did not have it shown. So if you kind of watch her, she looks like she's adjusting herself differently. And even Amanda noticed it, of like, I think she's pregnant at that time, which could be, Franklin or Valeria Richards, which that ties in with stuff with Dr. Doom later, as well as some people theorizing that could be why Galactus is showing up, because Franklin is kind of a, super powerful mutant, way a lot of the stuff they do stuff. So I don't know. I'm excited. We didn't see the Silver Surfer, so I still don't know what she's going to look like. Which I love the fact that they are using the other version, not just Norrin Rad, which is cool. It's very Earth X, which is where she showed up as the Silver Surfer as well. I can't remember her name off the top of my head right now. I know it was his wife, Norrin Rad's wife. I'm blanking on the name, but I don't know. I'm excited for it. I agree. We'll see more about the voice as it goes. I was shocked at Herbie looking competent. Like, that was kind of hilarious that they actually made him look cool. Any last thoughts on this one before we move on? Just because I wanted to nerd out about some Fantastic Four. I'm sorry.
Christian, what did you think of the back of Galactus's head?
Accurate, I guess.
Okay.
I have no opinion until I see it in theaters.
Fair enough. Anybody else have any thoughts about this outfits? Because I thought the color choice and the style was really well done, I thought. So, okay. Next part is a little more depressing, but He-Man and Prince Adam voice actor John Lee Irwin recently passed away at the age of 88. So a lot of mourning in the He-Man community from that. This is a voice I grew up with. I still hear it all the time and just always loved watching that show, collected the toys, have very early childhood memories of him talking. So that was kind of a big one for me, of somebody I remembered. And then lastly, on the Nintendo Switch Online Nintendo 64, we had a surprise drop of Ridge Racer 64, which is a title I did not expect to see come here at all, dropped by Namco. And then they also announced Wario Land 4 for the Game Boy Advance will be coming out on February 14th for that.
Honestly, with all of their like NSO stuff, I'm literally just like, Nintendo is over here like, I do what I want. I'm not going to provide an explanation for anything that gets put on NSO because I'm Nintendo.
There is no rhyme or reason.
And I do what I want. I just want it on there. I think it'd be cool. That's what they say. So.
You guys remember they used to announce these as parts of directs, and now they're just like, it's coming. Enjoy. Bye.
They're just like, surprise, here's a game.
They still do if it's a big deal like GoldenEye.
Oh, yeah. If it's a big deal, they'll announce it. But if it's just like, oh, this will be cool on there. Here you go, little Jimmy. Play the game. So
I think it was more of a strong arm this time because they made Anton Blast and Pizza Tower, and Nintendo couldn't pretend that Wario didn't exist.
Yeah.
So they're like, fine, here.
Well, here's the thought, just to get your hopes up. What if this is being launched so people can see it with a new Wario game maybe coming for the Switch 2? Just to needlessly get your hopes up.
See, here's the thing.
WarioWare, mouse it.
Oh, there's got to be a WarioWare game that uses the mouse. We all know that.
Well, listen.
Yes.
If they really want my like real happiness, Nintendo, they will let Castle develop another Golden Sun. Camelot. Yes, Camelot. Thank you. They will let Castle. Listen, it's got a Castle.
What did Frank Castle do? We've got enough Punisher right now.
Thank you. They will let. Literally, my brain only saw the logo.
Nathan Fillion needs to make another Golden Sun. Okay, got it.
Yeah, they need to let him make it and stop having him make sports games. So,
my only worry about that is like GoldenEye. That was a big announcement, but it's like very much a monkey's paw of that happening. It's like, oh, the Nintendo Switch Online gets GoldenEye, and it's the only one with online, but it still has the old controls. And then the Xbox gets the much better version that runs great and has updated controls that is not allowed to have online because of that. And I'm like, what the hell?
Because they know it'll be too good.
It would have been, yes. Perfect Dark is still on there, though, so go play that version. It's great. All right, so let's finish up then with the big question. All right, so this week our question is it better to have a long, detailed storyline or a shorter, more action-packed experience? Steven, I'll have you start this off since this was the question you came up with.
This is going to be an echo probably with a lot of you, but I think it depends on the genre. But for me though, like a lot of times the more action-packed experience is what I enjoy. Like I enjoyed Super Castlevania 4. I enjoy Burnout Revenge. I enjoy ZZZ has long, detailed storylines, but it has action-packed experiences. So it's one of those you can play that and come back to it. So there is games that can try to mold the two together. And then kind of departmentalize the long, detailed storyline, saying this is, as ZZZ puts it, immersive storytelling mode, where you can do nothing but the story. You're not allowed to do side quests in this mode. So if you enter here, we're giving you straight story, and we're locking out parts of the game so you concentrate on the story, and you don't do any side quests. And I was just like, that's pretty smart. Because the problem I'm having trying to get through all the Yakuza games is every time you're trying to get through the story, someone's like, hey, you want to play a game of Lucky Hit? Or, hey, you want to race cars? Or, hey, you want to golf on the moon or something? It's like, stop, leave me alone.
You want to be a real estate agent?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, do you want to run a hostess club? Hey, do you want to do like sex phone calls. I was like,
Hey, do you
leave
want
me
to go
alone.
punch a
I'm trying
tiger
to
in the
like
face?
my family here, and you're telling me, do you want to be on the phones?
Jesus.
So yeah, overall, like, do I want my RPGs to ever be short? No. I want to have like a deep discussion on those storylines. So those have to be long. But I would say outside of RPGs, the sky's the limit. You can go either way. But depending on your setting, a lot of them should stay just action packed. I don't need deep storylines for some of these where I don't need a huge prologue and it's just a game where I have to drive around or something like that.
Gotcha. All right. Rachel, what about you?
So I think not only does it depend on the genre of game that you're playing, but also the mood that you are in, of what game, what type of, like, because for me, if I'm not in the mood for a long, detailed storyline, I'm going to play something more action packed and shorter, or something chill. Like, what I play depends entirely on my mood. So, and also the type of game that I want to play. So I think, like, for RPGs, you better have a detailed story. You better make me feel some emotions, even if I don't like them, and it better be fun too. But like, for puzzle games, I don't like actual puzzle games like Tetris or Puyo Pop or the matchy games and stuff like that. I don't need a story for that. Like the like mystery games, obviously you need a story for that, a detailed one. Usually the simple ones, like those silly search and find games,
I don't know why those have stories. I hate that.
I hate it. I think it's dumb. Like, it makes zero sense. There's only been one series. There's one series that's done by like a Polish game studio that's all based on fairy tales, and that one actually has a really good multi-game, like, a story that spans across multiple games, and they do a really good job with it. There's only a handful of those that actually have good storylines and do them well, and it makes sense for the mini games and the things that they have. But most of the time, don't understand. No idea why. It's stupid. But I think the answer to this question is kind of, it's subjective, because it entirely depends on the game you are playing and what mood you are in. So that's my answer.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it just mostly makes sense to me. Yeah.
What
Chris,
didn't make
what about
sense
you?
to you?
Huh?
What didn't make sense to you?
Well, no, I was listening to part of it, but I'm also trying to do some other stuff, so I may have missed parts.
I think another thing that matters is the as you'll say with stories, is how much you also have to pay attention to. Like, even though like there's more action to be had in, say, the Miles Edgeworth investigations than there is Phoenix Wright. Both of those you have to be paying attention.
Yes.
Because you have to retain stuff. So I think when it comes to sometimes with long storytelling, they want you to retain things, and that's why some of them actually color the words red and such.
Or green.
But you can't go back. You have to just remember that they mentioned that.
It got better in the later games where they had you have case notes and stuff.
Yep. All right, Chris, what about you?
I actually don't mind long form stories. The thing is, you don't always have to play the game to hear them. Some of the best long form stories are either done in various parts from game to game, so that you learn more with every sequel and it becomes a whole experience, or even better, the entire story is in the instruction booklet and it's so inane and dumb that it has nothing to do with the game itself, but you have fun reading it anyway.
What game is
that's
that?
the thing.
That was the NES thing back in the day all the time.
There would be, like, a good example is a lot of imports. because you had a lot of the old imports like Twinbee from Konami, and then you had a bunch of, American game developers going, well, we got to put something in here. Okay, Professor Twinkletoes' candy cotton machine has been stolen by the Adventurons, and you have to go stop them.
Oh,
Go do it.
my favorite was the story for Blaster Master. It's like, my pet frog ran away, and like, how does that explain some dude with a massive gun vehicle you're jumping in and out?
So the one thing that reminds me of is, y'all know Destiny, right? And yeah, there's a story in Destiny. Most people didn't really care about the story in Destiny, but all the little nitty gritty, like super detailed stuff was hidden in these little file things that you would pick up as the game went along. And you would get all this backstory and detail, and you had to read. This was like books worth of information, all hidden in like data files that you would find throughout the game. And it was just total ass to read because it was hidden behind a bunch of menus. And then at one point, I don't know if this ever happened, but they had talked about putting out a compendium book of all of that lore, and it might have happened. I don't remember. I'll have to message my friend Davey to.
They're probably still printing it at this point. There's so much crap everywhere.
Well, it was just for the first game. It was just for Destiny 1. And I don't know if it ever came to fruition, but I remember them announcing it. And I remember Davey royally losing his shit and wanting to get the book because he was obsessed with the lore. Because the lore was actually really good and really interesting and cool. But nobody knew about it because hidden behind a bunch of menus. So...
See, believe it or not, that's actually my favorite kind of thing, where the lore is not necessary to the game, but it's hidden and it's ridiculous. The Neverhood is a perfect example.
Oh, God.
Because it has one long story, so long that the character has to walk through 25 different screens to get from the first chapter to the end. It's amazing.
Don't forget Xenosaga.
Yeah, Xenosaga as well.
Has an option in the menu to look stuff up.
Well, I enjoy encyclopedias. I enjoy bestiaries. So the game can be fun, but maybe I want to learn about,
I adore bestiaries. I adore bestiaries, but I need those to be in the strategy guide.
So yes, that's my answer.
All right, Chase, what about you?
It's a tough one. I think
Space Marine or Stalker, go.
Well, yeah, but like, I think for me, like there was a point where I was actually getting really tired of. I know this isn't necessarily answering the question outright, but like, we went through this phase, and we're still kind of in it, but we went through this phase where, like, with the PS4 and stuff, where like every game had to be open world for a while, and it was just like, oh my god. Why the fuck does all these? And then they would be like, we made this big expansive open world and we added like these really half-assed, just thrown in RPG elements, because otherwise, why the fuck did we make it open world? Is like kind of what I felt is. And then this game came along called Doom 2016. Was amazing. It was like a breath of fresh air, because I was like, oh my god, the opening cutscene is literally Doom guy saying this. Was Doom guy throwing a computer screen because he's like, get this story out of here. I just want to fucking kill shit.
I love that. He just grabs it while they're talking, just goes, yeah, fuck off.
And then and if you want to know about the story, you find your little like data pads and like all this other stuff or whatever. But otherwise, I just got to like kill things, go through a level, kill things, go to another level, kill things. I didn't have to worry about like, running across this big expansive map or anything like that. It was great, and like, I think that, like, for instance, though, Stalker 2, I'm really liking what I'm playing with Stalker 2. I couldn't imagine that game being level-based. That game, it wouldn't work. Yeah. I don't think. So, like, you do need... But the thing that I think people have started to figure out is just because you make an open-world game doesn't mean that it doesn't necessarily need to be an RPG. So, like, because Stalker 2 doesn't really have RPG elements. It's just survival elements. It's great. And like long detailed stories, Gears of War is one of my favorite games. That's a very long detailed story that's gone on for 5 games now, about to be 6. So I do really enjoy those. That was another one that was level based up until they changed the format in 5. But like Gears of War is quite action packed, so I think you can have a long, detailed story and still be action packed. I think that Yakuza is a good example of having a very dense story where it's not a big map, but there's a whole lot of shit to do in that map. And that, a lot of people would argue is a superior format, because you're not just walking across endless nothings to get to the next part of the story, to continue on the story. But I think there's definitely a place for both. I don't know that it necessarily has to be as genre specific nowadays, as long as you just treat the game right, like if you stay true to it. But yeah, I tend to lean towards I don't know which one I tend to lean towards, right? Probably a shorter, more action-packed experience, just because I'm playing Ninja Gaiden Black right now. That's level based. You get Doom 2016 and all the Dooms, which I've absolutely loved, and but yeah, so that's probably me.
All right, so I guess I'll finish this up here. So between having a long, detailed storyline or a more action-packed experience, for me, for anyone that actually knows me, I will every time go for a more action-packed experience, because this is the same problem I've had with RPGs and you're talking about open world games, where sometimes there's too many options, too many things to do, that will just shut down, and I just can't pick of things to do. Or I hate, like, if I'm going off on a mission and I'm focused on something and like 6 side quests get added and things just kind of careen around. And
see, that's actually one of the reasons why I am sometimes surprised, Jeremy, that you like No Man's Sky as much as you do, because there's simultaneously so much to do in that game that it is overwhelming, and also nothing. You don't have to do any of it.
It's the same thing like Minecraft for me. When I play No Man's Sky, I haven't followed a story. I'll just, if I happen to run into something and I'm picking around with it, but it's just exploration for the sake of exploration. So it's just doing that. There's not like a story I'm having to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and I don't mind longer story games. I do really enjoy them, but they can drag on sometimes. Xenoblade has been really bad about that. I'm surprised I finished the first one for Xenoblade Chronicles. I got through it. I still haven't been able to finish the second or third one. X, I've gotten a pretty good chunk of the way through, but I would kind of just long periods of stuff. I just kind of burned out. But Super Mario Brothers Brothership, it kind of did that. It's overstayed its welcome to the point where it's not coming up with little vignettes of things to do, or kind of focusing on chunks of things. Because even like Gears of War, you brought that up earlier, Chase. Gears does have a long story, but there are missions like, hey, we're going to do this. This is what we're going to do. There's a start and a stop. There's different things you can do with it. Even in the open world parts of 5 and things like that, we would get to, like, we've got to get here and, turn on this energy source. That is its own contained section. We're just talking while we're conversing between them. But when you get there, it's kind of starting a new chapter, and you're going through that part till it's done. You leave and you go to the next one. We could kind of define it. And I've had the trouble with that with RPGs for a long time, because and that's part of what would drive me nuts about some Metal Gears, where it's just like, all right, story time, sit down for a really long time, and you have to pay attention to all this. And it's like, I'm going to have a problem. Because my attention span sucks. We're aware of this. Not because I can't pay attention to things, but just because my mind wanders, things go on. If it's more action-based or shorter term for certain parts of it, I have a better time with that. I'm trying to think of some other RPGs. Like, I've been still playing like some of the Shin Megami Tenseis, which, even though it's a very long and convoluted story, is still kind of segmented, where I've got, I'm going to go do this to this, and then have, these things go on. And it's better about compartmentalizing itself, I think, which leans towards a comfort for me. as a personal thing. There's nothing wrong with the other ones. Even, we were talking about the Phoenix Wright games. I had to keep notepads and stuff and write down certain things because sometimes those would go for a while, but you're still involved with it while you're doing it. And there's still a defined case that you're working on. And it was convenient. You could just shut that thing like a book and pick it back up and, kind of make it bite-sized instead of forcing the whole time. So I don't know. It's one of those things that's kind of for each person. And it's been kind of interesting hearing everyone's answers to this one. So, all right. Well, let me end that. All right. Well, I think this has been a good return to the show. A little bit of a long one, but we've had some hilarious discussions and debates, specifically more about UIs than I thought we would have talked about. That was hilarious. Anyways, you can find the podcast in audio form wherever you listen to your shows. Just look for the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast, and you'll find us there to download, listen, stream, whatever you'd like. The video version you can find over at YouTube at our channel, Zenspath COM. Both can easily be found over at zenspath.com/podcast as well. And I'm actually working on possibly changing the YouTube channel to kind of make it specifically for the podcast. Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that goes. Leave us a review if you can to help us grow. Like and share the show with others. Leave us a comment on YouTube to tell us how you feel about the show and maybe answer this week's The Big Question, your thoughts between a more action-packed or a detailed storyline when you play your games. And then if you want to talk to us directly, the best and easiest way to do that is to go over to our Discord to find us, which is bit.ly/Zenspath Discord. There's also a link to it once again over at zenspath.com. All right, this has been episode 160 of the Zenspath Entertainment Network Podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy, joined once again by Stephen, Chase, Chris, and Rachel. And we're out. Peace.
Adios, amigos.